Well, we are on. Welcome to another episode of Crush This Monster Truck Podcast. Happy Halloween. I am right now currently dressed up as Rodney Tweety. There's an ongoing thing that his son, Austin, posed as his dad for Halloween a few years back at BJ Johnson's Halloween party. Then Hot Rod just did one this morning. So it's my turn. It's a quick fix. So I got my blue jeans, my white t-shirts, the cut grass, not t-shirts, but white shoes, the cut grass and stuff like that. So did all that stuff. So I wanted to do that. But hey guys, Brad should be hopefully hopping on also. If not, work has hold up his day. Once again, sorry about the miscue. We'll reschedule Shane, Mike, and their boys on a later date and go from there. Once again, also want to thank this episode sponsored, actually presented by the Monster Truck Attitude Facebook group on YouTube and on YouTube and on Facebook, the home of Thursday Night Thunder, Thursday and night. Let me edit that. Oh, I did so well. Home of Thursday. There we go. We'll save that and continue on with the ticker. And the home of Thursday Night Thunder. And also, just recently, they just did their October fest, stuff like that. So you can take a look at that. This episode with Rudy Campo. I probably screwed it up. I'm sorry. I'm not very good at the name things, but this is sponsored by Monster Truck Attitude. Once again, our Crush This podcast is presented also by High Octane Coffee and J Concepts. Also, another thing I want to give a shout out to is Farmer Racing Diecast in Pennsylvania. Go take a look at that stuff. They just came. Now you can pre-order if you want the Ryan Blaney Martinsville car. All sorts of racing from NASCAR, NHRA, IMS, IndyCar, Formula One, even the Le Mans cars, the supercars, stuff like that, even some monster trucks and stuff like that too. So go take a look at that at Farmers Racing on Facebook. Also go to our spread shop at the Crush This Monster Truck Podcast by spreadshop.com. Go take a look at that. Brad got some new designs and stuff like that too. Go take a look at that also. This week, our team will be in Dayton, Ohio. We'll be help crewing. Last week we were in Arkansas for a ride truck experience. And also they were at Bridgeport, Connecticut. If you took a look, they had some pretty cool. Well, they got some new rims and new tires on the trucks, so they look pretty cool. Once again, Dayton, Ohio this weekend. So that's pretty much it. Once again, thank you for the 5-star likes and reviews on iTunes and on Spotify. Thank you so much for all that's going on. Right now, this intro is a can't show it, but it looked like a dumpster fire. But once again, I am going to hopefully Brad will be on here soon. If not, we will fly solo and we'll be all right. So once again, guys, thank you for being on, and we will have Rudy on here in a couple moments. So here we go. Still getting a hang of this.
This isn't your typical motorsports podcast. You're listening to Crush This, a monster truck podcast presented by High Octane Coffee and J Concepts. A show where we take you inside the minds of your favorite drivers, past and present, of the monster truck industry. And now, your hosts, Brad Shaw and Dan Chichagash. Buckle in. The show starts now.
Like I said, welcome to another episode of Crush This Monster Truck Podcast, presented by Monster Truck Attitude on Facebook. And once again, thank you to J Concepts and High Octane Coffee, and we will thank a couple more sponsorship throughout the show. But once again, hey Rudy, how are you doing today in this fine October 31st type of night?
I'm doing good. Not doing anything cool today for Halloween. Just got off work. Still waiting for my place to warm up. I'm here in Utah, but good. How about you?
Oh, doing good also here. Just got done working at the Hall Brothers Racing Shop, but
Nice.
yeah, getting ready for some more fall Monster Jam stuff at Dane, Ohio. But I got my Halloween getup right now. I am Rodney Tweedy, and
Heck yeah. I'm a Crayola.
He's a green Crayola. But yeah, let's start off, the I guess, how you were a fan, and we always do a timeline type intro of the personnel, and then we kind of follow through and see how everyone else is today. So, do you remember the first show, or how did you get introduced to monster trucks in general? And then, proceed to talk about how you got to the steps of, me and you kind of have the same type of step-by-step getting to it, into the monster truck world, which is, a very cool story on your half too. So let's start from the beginning.
Well, as far as realizing when I got into or started liking monster trucks, it's kind of like I grew up around it for like a second generation driver. Let's just do Eric Swanson as an example. He grew up into it, so that's all he knew. So as far as I know, I've never remembered my life without monster trucks, through a fan perspective, of course. But my whole life, my parents took me to a show, and as long as I can remember, monster trucks have just always been a part of my life. So my parents had 5 kids, and we only went to Anaheim Stadium, which was a 15-minute drive from us. So we went to those a couple of times in January, and then once in Vegas until they left to Orlando. So I was pretty much a fan my whole life, and I don't know my life without monster trucks.
So you become a fan, and do you remember when you started kind of getting into, knowing, hey, I can get myself into the process of getting into the industry? The hardest questions a lot of people ask is, how do I get into it? And there's so many different types of door openings. So when did you get your opportunity to, for me, I did online monster truck racing and the MTM2 forum. And one Kevin Payne and Alex Pecorelli had on a forum saying, hey, we're looking for anyone that wants to help out for the Syracuse, New York Monster Jam show in 2011. And I thought to myself, well, that's an opportunity I could try. Let's go for it. That's how I got myself into the door as a track crew guy. And then the rest is kind of history throughout there. So what was the opportunity for you to get yourself kind of into the door in the monster truck world?
Well, I got in by accident by talking to J.R. McNeil, but to backtrack a little bit, I come from a family with no mechanical background. I mean, I didn't have any experience whatsoever. When I turned 15, I was a freshman in high school, and there was a race car team that started, and I joined that team, and pretty much I was the only one that showed up the first year for 2/3 of the first year until people started joining later on. So I was pretty much the main guy from there. So I got my introduction into learning how to hold wrenches and swing a hammer there through school. It was an after-school club. It was an engineering club, and we built a solar electric race car by the end of my freshman year, and we called it Unstoppable because We put solar cells on it, and it was an electric racing competition, but the rules never said we couldn't put solar cells as part of our charging deal. So we got away with it. And long story short, by the time I started driving it, I beat the whole deal by 8 laps, and then they banned us.
Oh,
So that's a cool story as far as how I got started into wrenching. But as far as getting started into monster trucks, I was graduating high school and didn't really have a plan on what I really wanted to do because I was so focused on the race car stuff in high school that I realized that I wasn't taking the education as serious as I should have. But I was going to do the engineering route because that's just all I've known. Because before that, I didn't have anything going for me as far as a direction and being doing anything as a career. So I went to the Anaheim pit party. First time ever going to a pit party in Anaheim. I just went to the World Finals because it was free with the ticket. And I met JR and I talked to him a little bit about what I did in high school. And it was a question about how do I get into it after I get my degree. And long story short, he says, well, you're 18. Let me have your number. I'll be back in Anaheim in 2 weeks and join us for the weekend. So 2 weeks later, and this is in 2017, February, joined the team the next 2 weeks, and it was all right. I didn't do anything. All I did was film. So that was that, and said bye after the show. But then a month later was the World Finals in Vegas. So we got to see JR at the autographs, and he saw my parents and my siblings, and he asked my parents if it'd be all right if he can fly me to Florida in May, a couple months later, to test out the trucks because they're doing some revalving on their shocks, and they want me to drive. So I kind of got into it super easily somehow. I got super lucky on that one. And then from there, it's just been a long up and down road, just trying to make it work. Because even though I did the racing stuff in high school, we worked on really one race car for 4 years in high school. So you don't really learn that much. You don't get a chance to learn your sizes or refabricate anything. So I was as green as can be joining JR's team. A little embarrassing at first because they probably didn't know why they hired me, but the effort was there. So over the years, it's paid off, and now I can pretty much do just about anything. And if I have a weekend off, I got someone ask me if I can join them for the weekend. So all those hard days are behind me now.
so like Chris Voss just said, one of the Raising Cane kids, he had fun time watching you and how you grow from how you are now. But I mean, you were with I think now Kristen Hope, now Kristen Miguez. I think there was a couple. Wasn't there one more person that was with you also? Was it Nick?
Yeah, it was me, Chris and Hope, who did the testing, and then that was in May of 2017. By the time 2018 started, Nick Miguez joined us for the tour, and we crewed for Jack Brown and Trent Montgomery.
Okay, so you started to get a little bit of the crash course and stuff like that, and then we're gonna go from there. And you where did you go after with the Raising Cane team?
So it's I mean, I kind of lose track myself because I've been all over the place. But so I did Raising Cane for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't expecting to get into monsters right out of high school. I had already signed up for colleges. By the time it's February, you're a senior. You already applied. So I was into my engineering degree just as much as my monster truck passion at the time. So it was really hard to balance monster trucking on the weekends because I flew to the East Coast every weekend. So you got 10-hour flight total going there and coming back. And you got school, you got to cram in a full-time school schedule with engineering type of courses. I mean, it was a lot. And I've never been the best student when it comes to testing and book work. So it was a struggle. So after the first year, I'd say probably a month before the 2019 season started, well, a little before that too, I also helped the Swansons whenever I wasn't with Raising Cane for my first year with them. So I kind of, by the time 2019 was coming up, I told JR that I should probably stick around home and focus on school more. And the only way that I can do his tour was if I was to do stadiums. And it obviously things didn't work out that way. So I decided to just part ways with them. But I did the first month of Triple Threat with them until school started in early February for the spring semester. But then once I left JR, I just joined the Swansons team. They were only an hour from my house, so they'd be back at the shop during the weekdays. I'd help them, and I could only go to the shows that were pretty much in California. But I was with them until pretty much the pandemic happened. I was with the Swansons for a year, almost 2 years, until the pandemic happened.
And then, so trying to hurry up and not hurry up, but try to figure out your timeline here, because after the pandemic, everything kind of ceased. And then when you got the ball rolling, when did you get the chance to be with Tony and his team with Playing for Keeps? I started, uh, you know, I did you ever work with the Sturges?
Briefly.
Briefly. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm getting everything kind of pieced together. But when did you start getting a chance to go behind the wheel of a truck and start uh, becoming now kind of mastering your craft on behind the wheel of the truck?
Okay. Well, first off, when I was with Rick, that was when it was just pretty much one race truck, so I got to slow down and learn everything. So as far as knowing the basics and everything, I
Mm-hmm.
really everything just for some reason clicked when I was with the Swansons. When I was at Raising Cane, I also had a broken arm. I mean, I forgot to mention that for the first half of the tour when I was with Raising Cane, but I just when I joined Raising Cane, everything was ready and prepared, so it was just all up in front of you, and there was a race-ready truck. So when I joined the Swansons, that's when it was more slowed down. I got to learn everything about the basics of monster trucks and how heavy a hub is, for example. When I had a broken arm, I didn't know how heavy it was. So did that. Um, so then once the pandemic hit, I mean, the Swansons were having a rough time. Everybody was having a rough time. So I did everything from working at vinyl shops or doing anything at the Swansons to make ends meet. And then I saw that Throttle Monsters was hiring in the summer of 2020. So Mike actually knew me. Mike Christensen knew me from driving a ride truck with the twins one summer in 2019. See, I'm all over the place. I mean, I literally, every dollar I've made as an adult has been through monster trucks. So one weekend could be with this guy, and one weekend could be with that guy. 3 weeks could be with one other guy. So Mike knew me from being a ride truck driver from the Graw Twins. So he knew I had decent skills and good work ethic. So I got hired pretty much right away with Team Throttle Monster in the summer of 2020. And I recommended a couple guys, and one of the guys that they ended up choosing was Jacob Ladwig. So Jacob Ladwig joined Throttle Monsters the same day I went. He went too. And Michael Brister, Michael Gromick were there too. So it was like a whole new team that summer. And we did shows all the way till pretty much Thanksgiving hit. And then I parted ways with them. And Jacob parted ways as well because he was trying to do more work for Sammy. And when Jacob found out that I left Throttle Monsters, he told me to join him with Sammy to make ends meet. So now this is the end of 2020. So December of 2020. Okay, so it is a month after I left Throttle Monsters. Kelvin Raymer wants to put Rosalie's truck together to debut for Salt Lake City in 2021, which is where Jurassic Attack debuted, if that rings a bell. So technically, me and Jacob got hired by Kelvin Raymer to put Rosalie Raymer's truck together and the New Time Flies together, which still isn't together. I'm not sure why, but I'm sure pretty soon. So we worked for Kelvin Raymer for 2 weeks until a couple of days before Christmas. And then we went home, and the day after, way off track now, my brother passed away actually on December 26th. So he passed away. So that made me stay away from Kelvin a month later. So it wasn't until a month into 2021, so late January, I got to get back working on trucks again, and was with Kelvin Raymer for a month with Jacob. And then after we left Kelvin Raymer's, we did off and on work with Sam Sturgis at his shop. And then there's a WJS display that we did with Sammy's trucks. And me and Jacob were the first ones to show up there. And we helped out anyone that showed up after us. And one of the people I helped out was Tony Canedo. So Tony Canedo appreciated my help, and we exchanged numbers. And he basically said, whenever I don't have work with Sammy, to give him a call, and he'll have work for me. And he would love for me to drive for him, possibly in the late summer. So that was that. Now this is April 2021. So then
see, this is what I'm talking about, the timeline deal.
Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah, but I'm trying to pause because I'm going to go on and on. You're not going to be able to speak either.
That's fine. That makes the program faster.
In the middle of all that, by the way, I did drive for Throttle Monsters, so now we got to backtrack, huh?
So now you drove with Throttle Monster for a little bit.
I did.
So you had some seat time.
Yeah, so in October 2020, Throttle Monsters, I drove the Hang Loose chassis. Once Jacob parted ways with Throttle Monsters, I drove the Hang Loose chassis, and man, that thing was a pile of junk. I mean, there's a photo I have where the shocks aren't even dropped out, and I'm 15 feet in the air. And that's where I met Craig Christensen. So he was a really good coach too, and he was giving me pointers on how to hit jumps, and I impressed him as far as if the truck broke, I was able to take it to the pits and bring it back out. And I never missed an event, and that truck broke every show. I mean, I changed a Turbo 400 transmission in 29-degree weather, so I mean, I still made the show. So so that was Throttle Monster. Now let's go back to where we were, April 2021. Sam Sturgis was getting rid of Unnamed and Untamed, and he suggested that I try to look for other work with other teams. He didn't want to hold me back. So once I heard that, I mean, I don't stop. So I just hit up Tony Canedo right away and got hired right away with him. And I was with him from June 2021 for exactly a year. And that's where I got to really understand what it's like to drive a monster truck. That's where I did all my learning, all my dumb mistakes, how to hit a jump, how to burp in the air. Mm-hmm. So I did a year of driving Survivor.
I was about to say, you had a good historical truck in Chuck Jordan's old Survivor truck, that first gen Patrick. I mean, that gotta be, not a lot of people could say they drove that truck that you would see on Inside Monster Jam back in 1997, 98, or posters, or the souvenir yearbook, and boom, you're driving kind of a longevity truck.
Yeah, that was a sweet truck. I mean, it was effortless. Like, I can just cruise to a jump and just burp the throttle, and it'll get me 20 feet in the air, no problem. So that truck just did all the work for you. So I loved it. And I think I picked up really quick as far as how to churn in tight spaces, because I started out in some tiny areas, but it just was a natural thing where I knew I can still spin a donut, or a power spin is what I call it, to kill time and get me pointed towards the jump going the opposite direction. But I learned that from doing ride trucks with the twins on and off too. So if you look at every run I do, I'm always breaking loose into a 3/4 donut to get myself turned around. I hate just doing a single churn. I always break loose and spin around the opposite way and hit the same jump. So if you look at 90% of my runs, it's like I'm driving a ride truck in between the jumps, because I'm just spinning around, just making the truck break loose all the time. I don't know. That's just my style. I love it. So that's what I did with Tony Canedo. Did that for a year, and I was working on 3 trucks. So it was Survivor, Enforcer, and Playing for Keeps. So that's where I really got to just take everything apart and learn for myself everything mechanical on the trucks, and any welding was all up to me. Like, I did everything on my own. I was in charge of all of it. So, I mean, it was really cool, and I was pretty proud of myself because Tony, all he had to do is show up and the trucks are ready to load in the trailer. So, if you think about from 2018, really where I started, and 2.5 years, then I joined Tony Canedo, the fact that I did all that with him, I mean, it just shows how much I actually did learn in a short period of time from not knowing anything. So, I mean, I was really proud of myself for that. And once I got there, I just took apart Enforcer all the way down. Housings and drive lines were taken apart. So, I don't know, it just clicked, and that's when I realized I know what I'm doing.
So then you caught the eye of Craig Christensen, and then you started working with him, and then getting your feet wet with the monster truck, Hot Wheels Monster Truck Live, correct?
So when I was with Tony Canedo, he was a landscaper. That's his real job. So he, long story short, and I ended up being more of a landscaper than a monster trucker. So over time, it's not really what I wanted to do. And he only wanted to do X amount of weekends a year. And if I really only did 12 weekends, I think, with Survivor. So, and everything else was landscaping. And we worked 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. And I would get home at 9, 10 o'clock at night. So it was a lot of work. So if I'm going to be working that hard, I wanted it to be towards what I want to do, expanding my networking, So, and Tony and I just agreed that he didn't want to do it, go into it deep. So I want to do this as a lifestyle. So we just parted ways, and that's why I left Tony Canedo, but I needed, something waiting for me. So I basically sent out a resume to the Twins again, saying, this is what's going on. I've done this and this and this. Here's what I make right now. Can you give me this much? And for this amount of months, blah, blah. And then after this month passes, we'll see where we want to go from there. And pretty much, I didn't hear from them for about a month, honestly. And I'm like, I don't know, I was getting nervous. Like, what am I going to do? And they said, we've been trying to figure out where to get you a place to stay. So we got you one of our motorhomes to stay in. So the Twins have just been trying to shuffle around things to get it to work out. So I leave Tony Canedo exactly a year, pretty much to the day when I started with him, to be with the Twins in the summer of 2022. So I was with the Twins all summer long, and they weren't going to be busy after September, so they knew they had to try to find some work for me. And they had a good friend, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I was going to work with him for air conditioning units or something, just so I can still be around the Twins for when they have their monster trucks. But my plan was I wanted to be stuck with the Twins because I just love those guys. So that was my goal.
Speak about Twins. Here's another twin.
Kylie. Yep. Miss you too. And I'm sure I'll see you soon. So let me see. So I worked with the Twins, and then they overheard that Craig is going to Europe and he's possibly going to need a guy. So they threw my name out to Craig at some point in the middle of summer. And part of me didn't really want to go because it's a blast with the Twins. The girls can tell you, Kylie and Kelsey,
Mm-hmm.
they are the funnest guys to work with. And they drive hard, and no matter what happens, you have all the confidence to work and do whatever you want, because as long as it gets done, that's all that matters, So it was just a blast working with them, and the girls too. But anyways, Craig had to borrow a chassis, and he needed to borrow the Twins truck. And I ended up pretty much going with the chassis and driving for Craig with Travis Gross chassis in September of last year.
Okay.
So I did a month in Bone Shaker. Did that. And then pretty much once we get the chassis back to Travis, Craig was building 3 chassis. Ashton Jensen, he's the guy that welded all those chassis. I mean, I don't think he gets enough credit, but that guy welded all those chassis. Those 3 chassis we ran in Europe and still run now, those are all welded by him. So, and they were brand new, and they were built specifically for Hot Wheels events. I mean, those things pop up super easily. So, anyways, I leave the Twins, and now I joined Craig's team pretty much in September of 2022 last year, and I've been with them since. So we did a month and a half of building 3 race trucks, and there's days where we had no sleep, and I'd probably catch an hour nap somewhere in the office and then go back to work. So it was a month of hell pretty much, and then went to Europe. So that's how it ended with the Twins, at least, and that's how I got into KCM.
So how you're doing all the a lot of the West Coast monster truck shows and stuff like that. How is the Hot Wheels Monster Truck Live a little bit different? Is it a little bit more laid back? Is it yeah? How was how is running with them?
Well, I'll be honest, I never watched a single Hot Wheels shows. I mean, I wasn't a fan of it at first because it wasn't what I ever thought a monster show could ever be. So I've seen clips here and there, but then the Glow Party started, and I thought it actually looked pretty cool. But I still never really watched it till I got there when I joined Craig's team. And when I went to the Ontario Arena, it kind of gave me chills because you're in a dome. For some reason, I remember that feeling still. But then you got these crush cars sitting there all fresh, and they look steep. And just the fact that something like that could happen in a small space, so it got my nerves up. So that's kind of the entertaining part for me. But I think you have to experience it live because I honestly think it's super entertaining. So once I kind of put myself through a fan perspective and just took away that, the competition part and just realized that it's a show. I mean, you have fun and it's really unpredictable every time. So the cars change every time. So personally, I mean, I love it. And I think it's one of the best shows you can go to. And I'm saying that like that's the honest truth. If you've experienced it live, you'll know what I mean.
Yeah, I've been to a few of them. They're very Hot Wheel. Obviously, it's Hot Wheels Monster Truck Live. It focuses a lot on the kids side of it. It's still cool. It's still the entertainment aspect of it is pretty neat. And if anyone has a chance to see it, go see it. So you're also doing other stuff too, because you were there for my first ever event driving a monster truck. But you weren't there driving, you were helping out as a tech. Outside of just driving it, you're doing all sorts of different monster truck jobs. So how do you get yourself, I guess with all the products that you've been doing, now your business card with the monster truck world is so much, I guess you can put so much titles into it, because you try to do everything.
Yeah, and pretty much because this is what I want to do for the rest of my life is monster trucks. And the overall end goal is to own my own race truck. So that's the reason why I'm doing so much and just doing whatever I could just to be an overall good personality and be friendly to every promoter I see because I'm going to need them one day. So I do whatever they need. I actually emailed the promoter last week to join them, and I can help them paint tracks and do whatever they need to. So I'm going to be doing more of that possibly to make ends meet. But that's the overall goal is for me, after a couple of years of just wrenching and thinking it's cool. For me, I don't think it's worth being away from my family if this isn't my overall goal to do it as a business. So for me, it would just be about posting a picture about me driving if that's not how I thought. So my goal in order to do what I really want to do, and I have visions that I really want to accomplish, and I need to own my own truck to do a couple things that I really want to do in life. So and once I get my truck, I mean, I got a whole bunch of plans I want to do, not just for racing, just other aspects that Monstrix can do or haven't done yet that I have plans of. But that'll be a while from now. 5 years I would like, but we'll see. I mean, it's tough. I mean, you probably know as much as I do that it's not sunshine and rainbows. I mean, I worked for Hot Wheels, but behind the scenes there, I mean, it's a totally different story. You never know. So, currently I'm not working for KCM anymore or driving for Hot Wheels. That wasn't a plan. That came up suddenly than I thought, but it was something that I was planning on stepping away to that full-time commitment. But now I'm trying to make ends meet, doing whatever I could, and I even have my own little decal business on the side that's kind of helping me right now for the moment. So as of right now, I'm doing anything I could to make ends meet. I have a part-time job at an apparel place right now. I help screen printing and edit designs. I'm also starting welding school right now. And I also have my Rudy Co decal services going on. And on the weekends, I have it open for monster trucks if anyone needs me still. So I have 3 jobs, 3 part-time jobs, and I got school getting thrown in there too. So I'm really going to be busier than ever, but I think it's going to be a smart way to go right now because financially, I mean, the monster's not going to come anytime soon if I don't take certain other things serious in my life.
And let's talk about your decal project because you also, I mean, you helped out with Cypher, I think, with Airborne Ranger.
Mm-hmm. Actually, you can see some Airborne Ranger stickers here.
Oh, look at that!
Yeah,
I didn't even notice that. So,
yeah, those were a screw up.
But that's cool that you're doing from RCs like you're doing my Raminator to the big full size monster trucks. So talk a little bit of a backstory on how Joe got you the opportunity to, or for me looking at it, I felt like you doing that Marauder truck was kind of something like kind of was a big deal. So how did that get all started, and how did Joe finally kind of trusted you on doing his truck? Because I think originally it was all murdered out, all black, and then you added the decals to it, correct?
Yeah, so as far as how I got into the decal stuff, I mean, it was never a plan. When I was with the Swansons, let's go to the Swansons, that's when Rick would post stuff and then I would get his pictures and edit them on Photoshop. And, on the road, you just fiddle around with the Photoshop and Illustrator. I'm not sure if you use that. I know your other friend does. I forget his name off the top of my head. So he's good at that.
Yeah.
So from the Swansons, from there is where I got my I guess my hobby into video editing / Photoshop and Illustrator, and then 3 years of that, and now I'm decent. So I got so good where I just started making money at it, and now I do decals. So I have a decal cutter, not a printer, so I got to layer my colors. But I actually, before I did Joe's truck, Craig Christensen had a ride truck, and we called it Pirate Shuttle. So we needed some sort of theme, and I thought a pirate theme, and Craig came up with the name Pirate Shuttle. And then from there, we just looked up some pictures online, and I mimicked them a little bit to make it our own, and we came out with the Pirate Shuttle ride truck. And then I did the bare bones monster truck for Ashton because his truck was specifically built for the bone shaker body, so that big square roll cage. No body would fit on it. So we just put a Lexan on the side and called it bare bones, and I did all the artwork for it. And then Joe Cypher hit me up shortly after that and wanted some colors on his truck, something new. So he wanted red Marauder and a yellow Airborne Ranger on the back. So that's how Joe Cypher got hooked up with me. He actually, the weekend after I saw you drive your truck, I stopped at the Twins on my way back to sleep, and Joe Cypher was there the next morning, and then that's when we came up with the idea. So he was my first customer, I should say. Craig was my test dummy. So I just paid for everything and winged it, and it came out good. But Joe is my first ever customer. And then from there, and thankfully he was super easy. It's just one color. So, yeah. I mean, honestly, that's like not a $50 job max. I mean, it was so simple,
Mm-hmm.
So that was how I got Joe's truck, and now I that's when I started my decal business. When this Hot Wheels tour started in July, the U.S. tour now we call it, and I was advertising my decal business and doing Hot Wheels monster trucks. And I let already a few customers down because I was so busy with the race trucks. Things didn't happen schedule wise like we thought. So I, had a rough start at first, but now I'm catching up. And I mean, I'm busy and I've knocked on 300 houses, believe it or not. I've emailed a couple hundred businesses. And out of every 100, I think I get 5 responses. So, I mean, out of those 5, I can still get a decent amount of work in. So for every 100, if I get 5, I mean, it's not bad right now. It'll get me through for the moment.
So pretty much as of right now, you kind of step back a little bit with the monster truck situation. As of right now, your goal is to own your own truck. As of right now, but you're helping out people off and on the side and stuff like that, correct?
Yeah, so my decal company is called Rudy Decal Services. Michael Keller, Buddha, is actually the one that came up with the name, and it had a nice ring to it. So credit to him on that. So that's my business. I do anything from billboards, yard signs, car magnets, custom decals, monster truck decals now, little stickers. I mean, you name it. I'm surprised how much you could actually do with decals, from permanent to temporary. So, I mean, I'm learning myself. I just bought a 25-foot ladder so I can do billboards now. So there's that. But I guess let's talk about the Hot Wheels tour we just did to now where we are now, I guess.
Yeah.
So the U.S. tour started. Well, let's talk about before that, I guess, the Hot Wheels tour, because actually, let's talk about KCM, because we did all of Europe for the beginning of this year, and Europe is honestly a blast. Like, the people there are insane. They treat you like a celebrity. Our first weekend there, we were at the mall before the shows even started. We're dressed in regular clothes, and people surrounded Craig Christensen, recognizing him as the demo derby driver. And he was just in regular clothes. So the fact that they remember how he looked from a year ago, I mean, that lets you know how well they pay attention and just are mesmerized by the monster truck drivers, the monster trucks itself. So, Craig would say he's retired, and now I'm the new demo driver, and Ashton drives Bone Shaker, and Caden drives Race Ace. So when Monday came around after the show, now we're being surrounded by fans at the mall. So Europe is crazy. I mean, you got people that have tattoos of the trucks, believe it or not, on their body. And they're got their nails painted, they're all face painted out, and then you do your wave at the end. I mean, they're going crazy. So the atmosphere over there is insane. I mean, it's nothing compared to the US. I mean, it's times 10 over there.
US is, we'll face it, we're kind of a little spoiled here, US and Canada.
It's oversaturated.
Yeah, oversaturated. Thank you. And then you go over the Europe, Asia, Australia. The Europeans, most of the monster trucks that you would see over there is going to be in England. A few in other places, but they're not going to be, what they considered what they like to see on TV. And that's what Hot Wheels, sometimes Monster Jam, is doing over there. So I mean that they're trying to see something that is coming from America over here, and a little bit of the westernization of it. So they're gonna like you said, they're gonna kind of treat you guys like rock stars, because they don't get that opportunity, like I guess, like you said, with us Americans. It's oversaturating. You can kind of, in January, if you went back home to where you're in California, you can circle a 6-hour radius, and you could pretty much do your own first quarter schedule on going see shows, if you think about it.
Right.
Anaheim 3 times. You can go San Diego. You go to Bakersfield. You can go to Sacramento. And just in California alone, you can pretty much do your own type of monster truck scheduling. Maybe go off to Vegas or maybe Glendale, and then stuff like that. So yeah, I get what you're saying. It's pretty crazy how they enjoy what we do.
Yeah, for sure. So we did 4 months of that off and on. So we'd probably do 3 weeks, 2 weeks off, 1 week, another 2 weeks off. So, but total we did 10 weekends. Surprisingly, I mean, felt like a lot longer tour. But when you expand 10 weeks into 4 months, there's a lot of sitting around in between there too.
How's the
So
atmosphere also in Europe? You go to different places in Europe, but I'm assuming like Manchester, UK is kind of different than Barcelona, Spain.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of, let me try to think of how to word it. But as far as my favorite, let's throw that in there. The UK was a blast just because the people in there just loved it the most, I feel like, and they understood the language, so you can speak to them. I mean, it wasn't too much different. I mean, it's kind of like you're always in the cities, basically. So it's, I guess, if you're always near the event, you're in the city. So it wasn't too much different. I guess just all the architecture around,
Yeah,
just everything was sculpted by hand, and everything you step on is a brick. So everything you see or are touching is pretty much handcrafted. It seemed like. So I mean, there's that. That's different. The food. Let's talk about the food. There's an
yeah,
ice shortage over there. They don't give you ice
they
or
don't.
salt.
Oh, like
um,
for instance, Mike Mentor, the Warhead driver, talked about hotel rooms. Their hotel rooms are. I know in Australia and we were in Japan, the hotel rooms are a lot smaller compared to America. And when I did Australia, it was really you really didn't miss a beat in Australia. It was really westernized, pretty much. I mean, you see a McDonald's, Wendy's. I mean, there was a Hooters there. The only difference is they drove on, we say the opposite side of the road. Really, that's
oh yeah,
about it.
yeah, I
Um,
almost died a couple times.
but outside of that, Australia doesn't miss a beat. You can fly to Australia and still, you know, go to whatever store that their version of Walmart is, get whatever, fly back, and it is what it is. It was a little bit different in Japan. Japan was pretty crazy, but
Dang, Japan, that's cool.
that was pretty neat, and but like you said, the hotel rooms are a little smaller. You were talking about the food. The food is probably completely different, than what you're used to. Let's talk about the food there.
Okay, the first meal we ate was at a pizza restaurant. They gave you your food and your soda, warm. And then the pizza, the options, I mean, you couldn't find pepperoni. It was pizza with french fries on it, pizza with pickles on it. You just wanted a regular pepperoni, so I just got cheese. But then they give you your food and then they take off. So they don't work for tips over there, apparently. So, I mean, it's just not saying that's bad. It's just different environment and how they think. And I think if you tip them, it's rude. I could be wrong because you think, they don't need your money type of thing. I don't know, but the food it was like American food, but just didn't match. And the grocery stores over there, I mean, you'll see a grocery store that only had dairy products, but no meats. Then you have to go a couple of stores down, and then there's a grocery store that has meat but no dairy. So nothing matched. Peanut butter, no jelly, like stuff like that. It was really weird. I don't know how they do their shopping. It seemed like you could be at the mall and then you just find a little grocery store inside the mall. So I don't understand how they do their shopping over there. I'll tell you that. But they had McDonald's and they had the same stuff we have. Other than that, KFC doesn't taste like KFC over there. So I mean, everything's the same but tastes different,
Then
or
the
the
money
combination's
exchange
different.
would be different, also, isn't it? You have to go to
What's
those exchange units. The money
no?
exchange.
I just used my card and
Oh,
like
okay.
it was, and it just transferred the way it is, however it works. I guess my favorite part was going to Rome. So Craig and Julie's his wife, they said, "Where do you want to go?" And I said, "I've always wanted to go to Italy, so let's do Rome." And we did pretty much anything and everything there is that Rome has to offer. And we were right next to, I forget what it's called, but it's where the Pope is. So our
Vatican.
Airbnb, what's that?
The Vatican.
Yes. So our Airbnb was literally you open our front door to the Airbnb, we're looking at the gates of the entrance there, and there's military men surrounding it. So we were safe, number one, but it was just the weirdest coincidence. So we're looking at the big dome every night. So we were there for a week, I think, and we did everything you could do in Rome. And I will
When
tell
in
you though,
Rome.
yeah, I will tell you though, Italian food in Italy is not what it is here in the U.S. I ordered pizza every meal because I wanted to find a pizza that I liked, and I didn't like any pizza, and it was all the same pizza, pepperoni.
How about
Just
yeah, they have spaghetti, they have
they
rigatoni.
did, but they don't cook it all the way. I forget what the word is for that too.
Uh, I know there's
Al
a
dente? I don't know, but
certain type of pizza there that I know in Italy that's good called Neapolitan.
ice
Which
cream.
is no,
They
it's
had good ice
tomato,
cream. I forget what they call it, but gelato. We got a lot
gelato.
of
Yeah,
that. So that's what fed us over there. Yeah.
Neapolitan is mozzarella. People may say it different. Mozzarella. I think some tomato, other type of cheese, and some parsley in a oven, not an oven, but a brick fire oven. So you have the really kind of like the burnt crust and stuff like that. Um, yeah, that is the Neapolitan pizza that I heard about that I try to go after. But they say when you're in Italy, you have to try that type of pizza.
Well, dang it. I have to try again next time. Let's see when it happens.
But is there any social media people can follow you at?
Yeah. For to see what I do with the monster trucks, it's usually Instagram. So Rudy MDC _13. Facebook, I really kind of just leave it to people that know me. So when it comes to Instagram, I can post a video there, and it's just strictly monster truck stuff. So really, Instagram is what I prefer to use to show off what I do as a living, which is monster trucks mainly. So Rudy MDC _13. But I guess with my decal business, I'm using Facebook more now. So my decal business is Rudy Co Decals Services on Facebook and Rudy Co Decals on Instagram. So those are the four media ones. And I have a YouTube channel that I haven't done in 8 months or something now, just
Oh
because
yeah,
I've been
some
so
side
busy.
stuff. I remember you working on Clarks and stuff like that, and kind of like you know, a technical side of it on working on monster trucks, letting people know, what you do and what kind of a DIY type deal with monster trucks. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So just because I started raw, I didn't know anything. So I just made a video because I take those apart so much. I mean, it's so easy to get a camera out at that point. So I just filmed it one time, and I was at Kelvin Raymer's putting his trucks together, and I got this. I had a stock spindle, an Overson spindle, a racer spindle. I had ball and claw axles, Overson axles. So I just had a whole mess of stuff to make a good video out of. So it tells you the basics of what the forklift looks like, tearing it apart, what the hub is, what the bull gear is, what the planetary is, what the SUR planetary is, sun gears, different ways to put it on. Some people put it on with the whole deal on with the sun gear intact, or some people take it off. So, I mean, I showed different variations of how to do it, and it is dummy proof, I feel like. So, just for anybody that wants to get into it, if you know that, you're at least handy for whenever you get started in monster trucks. And then after that, people liked it. So I did a couple other stuff with fiberglass repair, installing Lexan, random stuff that where I can just talk to the camera. So I got the
Mhm.
most compliments off that. They just like to see my raw personality of just talking and explaining how things work.
Well, now do
So,
some
and that's what I
that
want to do more and more.
that next video. Do something if you get hired from another monster truck team. Do the
Yeah.
decal side of it. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
something like
I
that
want to.
nature.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely want to.
I know John Arnold from JB Scale. Him and his wife committed on a full kind of size printer. And that thing takes the whole like basement, but they can do uh from RC decals all the way to a full size monster truck wrap Are you thinking about, kind of leaning towards that area too? Doing wraps and stuff like that. If you're going through, designer, like for instance, Brad, if Brad comes over and says, hey, this guy wants this done, I'm going to send you the art file, in the future. You see
Surpr-
yourself doing that?
Surprisingly, I don't think so, but I didn't think I'd be doing decals to begin with, but I don't see myself wanting to go that deep. That's
Okay.
why I just strictly call it decals.
Yeah.
So I have a Graph Tech, what's it called? A Graph Tech CE 7000. You probably don't know what it is, but Brad, is the name Bradley, you said, right?
Yeah.
Bradley knows probably what I'm talking about. So it cuts 24 inches wide, but it goes as long as you need it to. So there's been a couple times where I got to patch together if I got to go more than 24 inches, but I'm able to get a computer and know where I can mark my lines to paste it on the actual thing.
Oh,
But
okay.
I don't see myself doing real wraps. Like I would say half decals at most for monster trucks. So I guess just a decent example is if you look at Eric Swanson's truck, his is a half decal, and then the rest is all
Paint.
body and fresh paint. So
Yeah.
that's the most I'll ever see myself doing, and I think it looks cooler, as far as a monster truck. But no,
Yeah.
I don't want to commit to full wraps. It's too much, I don't know, pressure that I just don't really have a true passion for when it comes to that side. And so I just do decals. Like I'm possibly going to get a job to do a big billboard. I'm gonna have to climb on a ladder and go up and do it. It's huge, but it's just 12-inch tall words spaced out every other feet. So I can do big stuff, but really it's small stuff at the same time.
Gotcha.
But yeah,
Gotcha.
I don't think I'll do vehicle wraps. I just don't want to commit too much into that. But you never know. Maybe I will. Maybe I get so good at things I realize just a little bit of this and I can do that now. So I don't know.
Man, Rudy, thank you for being on, and hopefully see you down the road. Uh, like I said, with the social media and stuff like that. Um, Once again, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, no problem.
That once again, guys. Uh, Next week's guest is gonna be a big one. It's gonna be Mr. Bryce Kenny, Mr. Mohawk Warrior himself. We're gonna talk about his book, the changing his the Gears book that he just came out with. Talk a little bit about his NHRA, his IHRA and stuff like that. And so next week will be Mr. Bryce Kenny. So we're kind of got some good scheduling coming up here, and we got some back-to-backers. So once again, guys, Bradshaw will hopefully be on by next week. If not, it's all good. We'll try to pull this train going. But once again, guys, that is Bradshaw. I'm Dan Cheech Agosh. You can follow me on Facebook, the same name, Instagram, Dan Agosh MT28. Crush This Podcast is on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and also on TikTok. So go take a look at that. So once again, that is Bradshaw. I'm Dan Agosh. This is Rudy Chempo. Am I screwing up your name? I'm sorry.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
Rudy Martin del Campo. Joe Cipher
Chempo.
calls me Alphabet because of that last name.
But man, thank
And
you again. Go
yeah,
ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say just a random comment. What's really cool was how much people embrace the last name because I've never had to go up to any promoter, even Hot Wheels, just first weekend out, my whole last name. So I'm glad that my real name gets fully put on there. I was worried that it wouldn't, but I've always wanted to be known as my whole name. So I'm glad that the sport uses it.
Yes, and I think the sport also respects you and how your journey is and stuff like that, because it seems like you're one phone call away from pretty much getting yourself back in the twister of monster trucks if you really wanted to do it.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I mean, there's been a couple teams that reached out, but I don't want to overcommit to a full deal. So, like I said, I'm open on weekends. If there's any guys out there that needs weekend help, I can do that. But be on tour nonstop, I don't want to do that. For the next 6 months, that's not what I want to commit to right now. Just because I'm
gotcha.
trying to figure out something new.
Yeah, I hear you. But once again, thank you for being on. And like I said, next week is Bryce Kenny, and that is going to be presented by Justin Stories in his book too. So we'll have a book deal. But Bradshaw, Dan Agosh, keep the rubber side down and the shiny side up. Peace.
Peace.